If picking up heavier weights instantly made women huge, every bloke strutting around a pure gym is going to look like Thor, and they don't. So this right here is why I believe you should not be afraid of lifting heavier. We're going to dive in. Welcome back to the Strong Woman Collective. I hope wherever you are having a gorgeous week and you are all ready to get fired up, because once you listen to this, you are not going to be able to help yourself. You are going to be in that gym, getting your lifting straps ready, going up to the next dumbbells, adding more plates to your barbell. Like, I can smell the progressive overload in the air. Okay? Right, we're going in. I firmly take offense at how many women get stuck in the little pastel-coloured dumbbell prison. I feel like every gym has a setup like this. In the first gym that I PT'd in, we had a studio, and it was like where the lifting classes were held. So all of the Les Mills stuff, like body pump, body attack, body combat, and they had all of these weights. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilos. You couldn't get anything heavier than a 5, and they were all pastel colors. They were all some form of like purple, yellow, pink. And I've trained in other gyms where they have like a women's only area, and these are the shitty dumbbells that are on offer. Now, are they helpful for lateral raises? Yes, because we all know that you pretty much get to 5 kilos and you stay on 5 kilos until forevermore. But when it comes to actually seeing more progress, so many women, and I bet you're out there thinking the same thing, are scared of lifting more because of this myth that we've created that if you lift heavier weights, you are going to get bulky. And bear in mind, a lot of men in gyms don't look like men. If it were possible by just picking up a heavier dumbbell that you could slam on a shit ton of muscle, maybe best believe I would be there. Okay. When it comes to building muscle, what you have to remember is that the process itself is quite slow. This isn't a reason to be discouraged, but I think it's very kind of easy to think that it's going to happen a lot faster than it does. And building muscle takes months, if not years. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try, but it does mean that we're not going to see 5 kilos of muscle gain inside 1 month unless we are assisted with some form of steroids, okay? When we talk about things like progressive overload, we're talking about gradually asking your body to do more than what it was originally capable of, to force it to adapt, to force it to get stronger. We're causing micro tears in our muscles whenever we train. Through the process of rest and recovery and eating enough protein, etc., those muscle fibers essentially knit together stronger, and that's how we grow muscle and how we get stronger over time. When we're talking about like, we want you to do more, we want you to lift more, we want you to push your bodies, we're not saying that we want you to be maxing out on every single session or ego lifting or like tripling everything, right? What we're talking about is increasing weight, reps, improving your technique, improving how well you control the movement. This is like the mechanism of progressively overloading, because every session that you do to a point should challenge you. And again, this is coming at you today from me in the absolute pits of hormonal fatigue. Like, I am not capable. This morning in the gym, my first 2 exercises went up, and then all of a sudden mid-session I crashed and burned. Like, the next 4 exercises all went down. It was actually shocking. It was like 2 different versions of me. One version went in and one version came out of the gym. And, you know, when it comes to progress, it would be freaking awesome if it were linear like this, but it's not going to be. So kind of we're sat here going, right, I think I want to see more progress. And I don't think I've ever met a woman who's like, I don't want to progress in the gym. It's like, everybody wants to do this, right? But what we want to make sure that we're doing is we're gradually getting that progress over time. And if you think of like common goals, now I speak to so many women, and common goals are lose fat, tone up, get a bit stronger, okay? Yes, I know the coaches who might be watching this want to be like, tone isn't a thing. No, it's not, but it's a term everybody understands, okay? When we're talking about toning a muscle, it's not physically possible to tone it, but what we're talking about is reducing body fat and increasing muscle mass, and that's what gives that quote-unquote tone physique, where you can tap a body part and feel something firm as opposed to something a little bit more squishy, right? And most women turn around and are like, yeah, I want shape, I want confidence, I want to be able to walk into the gym and look like I belong there. That doesn't come from staying in your lovely little women's only studio lifting the pink dumbbells. As much as you want to. And I get it, because most areas in gyms when men are around do freaking stink, okay? And the noises they make are quite off-putting, but we need to be taking up that space. We need to be on that main gym floor with all the barbells and the dumbbells and the kit, not hiding away in a little studio with doing like lower body movements with weights that we can lift with our arms. Like, if you're doing a squat with a 5 kilo dumbbell, chances are you could be doing a lot heavier than that. Like, if you can bicep curl a 5, you can squat a lot more than a 5. So for us to be able to see that progression, we want to make sure that we are pushing to do more over time. Okay. Now, I know there might be some of you sat here being like, okay, like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not going to get huge? Like, I've been told that if I lift bigger weights, they're going to make me look bulky. Okay. When it comes to the mechanism, yes, of course, you're going to grow muscle. If you're progressively overloading over time, you are challenging yourself. You're making sure that those last few reps in your set are hard. You are going to grow muscle, which can, without the reduction of body fat, can make you look quote unquote bulkier, because the muscle is essentially going to feel like it sits on top of the fat. So you're going to have the same levels of body fat that you had before, layer on some extra muscle mass. You are potentially at that point going to get bigger in size, right? But most people aren't here to do that. Most people are here to also drop their amount of body fat. The bulky feeling often comes from having more body fat and then adding more muscle. Yes, of course, you might be like, but you're talking about me gaining muscle. Like, why is that alone not making me bulky? And the simple reason is we do not have as much testosterone as men. So testosterone is the hormone that is responsible for a lot of muscle growth, okay? We do have testosterone. We just have about 10 to 20% less than men, which means our muscle building capacity is going to be limited versus men. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't also focus on building some muscle. But the other side of it is most women undereat, don't actually train hard enough, don't necessarily do enough from a recovery perspective, and don't actually follow a program that progressively overloads. And again, I say this with love, because I'm not one of these coaches that exists to shit on what everybody does, right? But you going to just random gym classes, that's not progressive overload, because there's no pattern. You can't gauge whether you did 9 reps last time or 10 reps, what weight you did. And I say this as somebody who used to go to a lot of classes and couldn't have told you how many reps she did or how much she lifted. Like, it was all timed. It was do this station for a minute, then move on to the next one, then move on to the next one. And you only had a few options in weight. And it was like, see what you can do. Classes, or rather class-based systems that do it well, include things like CrossFit gyms and CrossFit boxes, that kind of thing, where they have a progressively overloading training plan and the trainers will actually plan out each session. But something perhaps like more like a body pump, a body combat, or a session where you go to like random PTs classes and they don't have a plan to follow, or they don't stick to the same schedule week in, week out, that's when you find that you don't actually see that progress, because you're not able to train that muscle close enough to failure to then actually build enough muscle. Okay. Building muscle takes time. Rates of growth are quite slow. So if we're already then chopping and changing our workouts, or we're not necessarily like making sure that we're overloading, then we are going to struggle to build muscle mass over time. I think something else that isn't talked about enough is the fact that as we age, our estrogen levels drop. Okay. So this is one of our female hormones. Post-menopause, estrogen is basically null and void, and testosterone becomes proportionately more significant, which is another reason why we should actually start lifting more as we get older, rather than what is commonly done, which is we start lifting less. We have all of this energy in our 20s and 30s. We get into the gym, we maybe train for aesthetics, we work with coaches, we want that aesthetic that comes with being a gym girly. It's huge out there at the minute. Like, the amount of influencers, the amount of money there is in the fitness industry is absolutely incredible. And I don't think it's all as negative as some people make it out to be. But I speak to a lot of perimenopausal and postmenopausal clients who are like, should I bother? Like, you're telling me that I can't actually gain as much muscle anymore, and I'm not maybe as strong as I was when I was 30. Should I bother? And I'm like, yes, because you shouldn't be afraid of lifting, and you shouldn't be afraid of lifting heavier, because when we build muscle, we also help with things like bone density. We improve our balance. We can reduce our risk of falls, which means that as we get older, not only are we going to look hot as shit, which, let's face it, is a nice side effect, but we're also going to have the strength and the mobility and the flexibility in order to still be rocking around in our 60s, 70s, 80s, running around after kids, grandkids, still being able to get up off the sofa without assistance. Like, I love the fitness industry, and I kind of love the aesthetic side of things. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm nearly 35, but I don't want to feel like I don't look good in my clothes or in my bikini, or God forbid, naked. Not that I'm naked a lot, but it's like, I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want to perform really well, but I also want to look good as relevant for me. I can't imagine that changing at 70. Yes, okay, I might not be so into the aesthetic side of things, but I do not want to be a 70-year-old who struggles to go for a walk, who struggles with the stairs, who struggles to bring her own shopping in. Like, I want to be that granny that's doing it all. I say that I'm not going to be a granny. I don't plan on having children. So it's like, you know, I'll be the hot auntie. My brother's probably going to have kids. I'll be Auntie Harriet, who isn't afraid of getting involved with the kids. Like, that's my goal for as I age. But the other side of it, and again, coming back to that narrative of lifting heavy, if you do not do it for aesthetics, that is absolutely fine. If you do not want to be the strongest woman in your gym, that is absolutely fine. If you still want to do things like body pump and body combat, absolutely go crazy. But I think one of the biggest reasons you should actually focus on hypertrophy training and on actually focus on lifting more is because there is a sense of empowerment that comes from getting stronger. I remember the first time I managed to walk across the gym. This was when I was a PT, and I lifted a 20 kilo barbell in one hand. So it was like the pre-made ones. And I was able to walk across the gym with a 20 in one hand and a 15 in another. Like, I'd been setting up for a session for a client. And I was like, I'm basically doing a farmer's carry with 35 kilos, and I can hold each of these in a hand, no straps, no gloves, no bother, and I can walk across the entire length of the gym, navigating people with no spatial awareness. And that's one of the first times I turned around and I was like, actually, that's pretty freaking cool. Now, it's not the weight of it that matters, but it was the fact that I could do that by myself. I didn't need to grip it with two hands. I didn't need to do two trips. All right, part of it was laziness and sheer bloody mindedness, but I was able to do that. And it was the first time that I was like, oh, actually, like, maybe I am getting stronger. And I think that confidence also shows up in areas outside of the gym as well. So not just in like when you're getting ready to go out and when you're feeling really good in your outfits, but actually I've had clients work with me who are like, I actually went and applied for a promotion, or I went and applied for a new job because I've got this newfound confidence and I actually have some belief in myself. And I think as we get older, I think often for women, we don't have hobbies. We don't necessarily have things that we do for us. A lot of what we do is tied up to like our caregiving roles and our roles as partners and families and stuff like that. I think we naturally take on a lot of that role, but actually to have something for us, to have something that works our bodies, to give us a different focus and that allows us to show up in different ways in our like day-to-day life, I think is so freaking awesome. And then the other side of it is you get to prove to yourself that you're capable. I buzz off nothing more than when one of my clients comes to me and is like, so do you remember when I told you that this was my goal? Today I nailed it. Or do you remember when that was my goal? I've now surpassed it. Like, my client Jo came to me and she's deadlift queen. Like, she's really good on the big three. She's a great squatter, great deadlifter, great at bench press. And she'd done like 100 kilo deadlift, but it was more like her 1 rep max. We got her to lifting over 120 kilos, 4 reps, 4 multiple sets. Now, it took time. It took about 18 months of progress. But that didn't matter because she got there. She got to her old 1 rep max, 4 reps, and then surpassed that by another 25%. Like, that is incredible. And I know there's always a part of us that might go, okay, well, 25 kilos, is it that much? And it's like, well, when you think that that is 125 kilos for a woman to be lifting, a woman who is under 75 kilos, that's pretty freaking awesome. I think it's that side of things and proving to yourself that you're capable. Like when somebody gets their first push up, their first pull up, their first bodyweight squat, their first triple figure lift, it's incredible. And I know that the narrative a lot of the moment out there is on shrinking, it's on slimming, it's on being leaner. And I am in part a fat loss coach, so there is a side of that obviously I support, I encourage for the right person at the right time. But when it comes to lifting more, when it comes to lifting heavier weights, you get to focus on building your body and building something that is strong, is capable, and doesn't need the support or validation of anybody else. And I think that's incredible. And I think there's something incredibly powerful about walking into a training space and knowing that you're not just there to become smaller, you're there to become stronger. And I don't know about you, but I am your typical millennial, started the gym at 18, 17 actually. I just wanted to be skinny. All my goals were tied up in me being skinnier, me being smaller. If I do this, then I will feel great in myself. And I can say that now I am still, at this current time, heavier than I have ever been, in the sense that I'm, lighter than I was at the beginning of the year, but I am heavier than I was when I was previously at my biggest, at my fattest. But because I have much less body fat, I have much more muscle, I am much stronger. I don't care so much about that one little number on the scales, because from a performance perspective, my body can do everything I ask of it and more. I can do pull-ups. I can do press-ups. Well, okay, I can sometimes do pull-ups. It depends on the day. I can do press-ups. I can squat my body weight. I can deadlift over my body weight. I can hip thrust twice my body weight. All of these things. I can run. I might not like it. I can run. I can hold my own. I am strong. And I love being able to say that. And I think that is something that we can often forget and we can lose in the chase of becoming smaller. And this is why I sit here and I implore every one of you to go and lift heavier. Heavy it's entirely up to you. It's subjective. But what is heavy for you, I encourage you to go and lift that. And I encourage you to not be afraid of taking the next weight for a spin. I often talk on Instagram about not just doing 3 sets of 12, but I know why you do it. You do it because it's safe. You do it because it feels good, and you do it because you feel in control. But the gym isn't always a space where we need to be in control. And to build muscle is to put your body in a place where it's stronger. To lift more in the gym proves that you are more capable. And I think that is absolutely freaking incredible. And also, it means that we're going to be baddies when we're older, because when you squat in the gym, you're getting ready to squat when you're older. When you deadlift in the gym, you're getting ready to pick up your shopping bags from the floor. When you overhead press, you're getting ready to reach up into your cupboard to get something out. These movements are functional, and they will have a direct correlation to what you will potentially be able to do when you are 70, 80, 90, maybe even 100, which is pretty fucking awesome. So I don't want you to be scared of getting bulky. I do want you to go and take extra weights for a spin, but I want you to make sure that you are pushing to challenge your body. Not every set should feel easy forever. Once it feels easier, we should be looking to make it harder. The last few reps in every set should be difficult. You shouldn't breeze out of a set or a gym workout and be like, oh yeah, that was awesome, I could do it all again. We want to sit in that gritty little space where we are challenging ourselves, because your body doesn't grow just because you walked into the gym. It grows because you challenge it. And I think that is the most important thing to remember. Okay, so no more baby weights. Let's all go and pick up our big girl pants. All right. Hello.